6. Bloodlines. What do you mean DEWs? Kite says over the phone. And that's what the boys in the field are saying, Slate growls. There's the sound of rustling papers as he reads out the full quote. Suspects were able to subdue agents using some kind of directed energy weapon. That's all? Apparently, they found the resonant frequency of human brain tissue, Slate explains, because the scene was covered in chicken noodle soup. Kite grimaces. And Dr. Lumen? She was unharmed. They got into her car and drove off. My guys aren't certain, but they're not ready to rule out that she's an accomplice. I highly doubt that. Cass wanders over to the window to stare at the trees. Were they able to follow? You're kidding, right? Slate laughs dryly. These sons of bitches melted 3 men's brains in less than 2 seconds. I told my guys to regroup until we can up our firepower. Lai won't be in any danger, will she? The general assumes an air of professional sympathy. I can't really make those kinds of promises, Dr. Kite, but we'll do the best we can. If half of what you say about this weapon is true, national security's at stake. If push comes to shove, my men will do whatever is necessary. It's not a weapon, Kite corrects. Of course not. Slate unleashes a vocal sigh. Look, Doc, I've got about 1 million other things on my plate here. We're keeping an eye out for Lumen's car. My team should be back on the ground within 48 hours. We're taking this very seriously, but we don't want to cause too much of a stir. Take the day off. Go play golf or something. I'll keep you posted. Cass lets out a sigh of his own. All right, sir. I'll keep trying to reach Eliza on the phone. They hang up. Dr. Kite stares out the window at a plane in the sky. He assumes it's a plane. He's not exactly paying much attention. He doesn't even really register it's there until it zips off towards the mountains like a dragonfly. He blinks hard. Maybe he should take the rest of the day off. Eliza exits the freeway and rolls up to a less well-kept part of town. There's a quiet little side street with only a few cars. She selects one at pseudo-random and parks behind it. You kids stay here and keep watch, she says. What are you doing? Asks Errol. Lai digs through her glove compartment for a screwdriver. I'm going to steal this guy's license plate. She locates the apparatus and steps out of the vehicle. It's a small fix, but my car isn't all that uncommon, and it should keep us somewhat hidden until we find what we're looking for. She slinks over to the other car and begins to unscrew the plates. To her mild annoyance, Errol follows her out to the curb. I said keep watch. You're drawing attention. Oh, he stutters. Sorry. He continues to stand there awkwardly. She does not turn around. Was there something pressing that you needed to ask me? He fumbles. What exactly were we looking for? We're going to your cabin. After that, God help us. Right. Okay. He crouches down beside her. What if these plates aren't valid? She points to the up-to-date registration sticker. No. She seizes the opportunity. Excellent question, though, Errol. She meets his eyes and flashes a polite smile. She can practically feel the warm blood rushing to his cheeks. Do you need any help? He asks. Yes, actually. She stabs a finger back at the car. I need you to stay in the car and keep watch. She seals that with another sweet smile. He swallows that smile like candy and dutifully retreats to sit with his... 10 minutes later, they're anonymous on the highway on the way to the mountains. She's been avoiding the topic since it happened, but Eliza's mind begins to wander towards the phenomenon back at the house. She tries to examine the other's expressions in the rearview mirror, but gets nothing. 2 human faces, her brain announces confidently. So helpful. Errol catches her looking, and she is forced to speak. What did you do to those men? She asks. He looks away, quickly becoming entranced by the rapidly unfolding landscape out the window. After a moment, he shakes his head. I'm not sure. You must have some idea. His blue eyes connect with hers. She swears she can feel something touching her somewhere inside her mind and has to look away. Psychic powers, he says finally. His sister looks at him. Doubtful, says Lumen. She wants to get his brain going. You saw me do it, he protests. But how? He looks out the window again. Alien ancestry. She allows that to sit with all of them for a moment. She doesn't have enough data to say one way or another, but there's clearly something that doesn't quite click. Like the rough draft of a form-fitting function that hasn't quite found its elegance. It's true, she did see with her own 2 eyes whatever it was that he did, but that on its own is not evidence of the postulations he's making. Still, she wonders in one corner of her mind, silently, heretically, if maybe he's completely right. A deeper examination will have to wait, though. With any luck, there will be at least a couple of data points in this cabin of theirs. Errol's directions lead them up the side of the mountain where the houses become bigger and more sparse. A few of them are literally castles. Places where medical doctors and the like are able to tuck themselves away while simultaneously looking out over the crowded lower classes in the valley below. The cabin is nowhere near these subdivisions, however. They pass into a canyon where the road gets tighter and the radio decays into sporadic, unlistenable noise that Eliza is forced to turn off. The silence adds to the oppressive walls of the slopes on either side of the road. Dirt driveways appear every so often, leading to houses that are much more modest but likely only slightly less expensive than the mansions near the canyon's mouth. Eventually, they pass a small building with windows advertising various goods in neon spray paint. Errol says this is their last chance to get any provisions they might need, but Eliza passes the building by. Later, as the winding road seems less and less likely to end anytime soon, and her stomach is growling softly, part of her wonders if she's being overly cautious. Better that than the inverse, she reasons. They finally arrive at the place after 4 straight hours of driving. Off the main road, down a narrow dirt driveway so long that it could be considered a road in itself, a quaint log cabin stands nestled beside a pond fed by a nearby spring. The place looks dusty and unused, but far from unserviceable. They crawl out of the car and stretch. Errol ushers the women inside and makes a beeline for the restroom. Patricia tries to intercept him, but fails. She pounds on the door and curses. "Ladies first, you fucking dick!" "I'll only be a second," he hollers back. Eliza takes a moment to examine the interior. The main room is a good size. Plenty of space for a holiday party with a small extended family, a function for which it was probably intended. The symmetry of it is soothing to her scattered mind. Beside the door is a large window, and on the opposite side are 2 more. To the right and left are 2 doors each. 2 small bedrooms, the bathroom, and a narrow kitchen area with a door to the backyard, where she can see a splintering old picnic table and a stack of firewood. In all directions are dense trees with a few game trails snaking throughout. Errol steps out of the bathroom and is nearly bowled over by his sister juggernauting her way in. Eliza continues looking for some place where documents or family memorabilia might be kept. Maybe there's a secret compartment under the floorboards or something. She wanders into the larger of the 2 bedrooms where there's a closet radiating the smell of old paper. Errol follows her inside. "There's probably something in there," he says. "Pretty much everything left of my grandparents is in this room." "Your family history seems to have been slowly dissolving over the past couple generations," Lai notes. Errol nods beside her. "Never thought of it like that, but yeah. I think I might have had cousins, but I could have just as easily drummed them up." She starts digging through the closet while assimilating that information. There's some ancient leather shoes, 60-year-old outfits that would have been gaudy even in the 80s, a pair of creepy, bald-headed dolls, nothing terribly useful or informative. She digs deeper, underneath a stack of old fishing magazines, to an accordion-style legal binder, which she extracts. "Any idea what this is?" Errol shrugs. "A clue?" "Here's hoping." Eliza carries the binder over to the bed and sits down. Inside the first pocket are several old photographs. They're bad by any standards. Probably only those which weren't pretty enough to be kept by Errol's mythical cousins, but they have dates and names on the backs. Errol points out the people he recognizes. His mother, his grandparents, and his grandmother's parents. According to the scrawl, each generation produced several offspring, but the kid says he doesn't recognize any of them. The oldest of these pictures, deductively that of his great-great-grandparents and their 2 children outside near some woodlands, possibly on this very property, is yellowed and worn. The subjects aren't posing for the camera properly. The patriarch is moving as if swatting some insect, and his partner seems to be berating her daughter, who eyes the camera lens with disdain while her older brother stifles laughter. As she looks closer, Eliza thinks she can make out another figure, sitting cross-legged on the ground under a tree in the background. The figure looks rail-thin and pale, with a shawl over her head. Eliza would guess an elderly woman if it weren't for the posture. She flips over to the back to see a note which reads, "Visiting Gran. Ruined. Should throw out." There are no names, frustratingly. She shows the picture to Errol. "Do you see that?" "This?" He points to the blur of his forefather's hand swatting an invisible fly. Eliza points under the tree. Errol squints at the huddled blur in the shadow. After a second, his eyes go wide. He snatches the photo and holds it right up to his nose. "Is that Granny Sin?" "It's an unidentified figure," Lumen says factually. Patricia has wandered into the room during this discovery. She examines the picture over Errol's shoulder and says, "Unidentified frail old person." Eliza laughs mildly. Errol does not. He looks at both of them, then stabs at the picture with his finger. That's not a human being.
Sure looks like an old lady, Pat insists.
Are you kidding me? Look at the eyes. He points at the smudge of black where the face is entirely invisible.
What eyes?
He groans and shakes his head, clearly so tired of this shit. Look at my great-great-grandma. He points to the woman whose face is tilted down to slap his cherubic great-grandmother on the cheek. Tell me those features are 100% human. It's impossible to see exactly what the woman's face looks like from that angle, but Lai can almost see what the kid is talking about. It's not just the daughter who looks cherubic. The elder brother, though clearly in his late teens, shares the same large, round, soft features as the apparent troublemaker beside him. She realizes how much the black and white of the photograph is doing to hide the strangeness of its subjects. It's truly an eerie, otherworldly sort of facial structure. Just sort of uncanny, like they've come from some secret, undiscovered continent. She looks again at Errol's face. She can see the resemblance. She realizes that she can't quite pinpoint his ethnicity. Something Nordic, maybe a touch from some corner of Asia, but nothing she could accurately guess at. She retrieves the photo from his haunted grasp and sets it aside. It's undoubtedly interesting, but nothing near what they're looking for. She leafs through the deeper layers of the binder. There are several newspaper clippings from important events throughout the 20th century, but nothing personal to the family, and certainly nothing concerning extraterrestrials. Other than that are old copies of deeds and wills. Nothing of use. She sets the binder down in defeat. She doesn't enjoy this feeling. You latch on to a piece of data, a framework, or a blossoming new paradigm, then pour so much energy into seeing it through only for it to peter out into nothing. The worst part is never the failure, it's the sudden, overwhelming sense of hunger. Like your brain has been mistaking its need for nutrition as a need for success. Once success becomes less viable, it recognizes the error. Human bodies are so inefficient. She gets up and stretches the norepinephrine-soaked kink out of her neck before marching out and across the main room toward the kitchen. The Ritters follow her with yammering questions. Where are you going? Asks Errol. He holds the photograph in his hands. Isn't this exactly the evidence we're looking for? She opens a lower cupboard where there are likely to be canned goods. Most everything inside is expired. We have no use for evidence, she explains. What we want are solutions. A silence passes over the kid that may or may not be philosophical revelation. What do you mean? He asks. She locates a bag of rice and a pot. What I mean is that the existence of aliens, no matter how groundbreaking a discovery that would be, no matter if it turns out that you have unique abilities that are tied to some potential hybridization program between your ancestors and said aliens, that does nothing to help us in our current situation. It's entirely incidental. You're saying my powers do nothing to help us, Errol whines. Patricia turns up her nose.
Don't call them powers, that's weird.
Eliza puts the pot of water on the stove and starts digging into some sugar cubes on the counter out of metabolic urgency. I was told to seek you out. You happen to possess certain abilities. Yes, they have proved useful, and I am grateful for that, but unless they can somehow destroy strange matter, I don't see how they can be used to get a story and a goal. For that, we need something else.
Like what?
That's exactly the problem. We don't know. What if I can, though? Come again? What if I can destroy the Strangelet with my powers?
Ew,
Pat protests the word. Eliza takes a moment to consider this. Are you able to manipulate physical objects? I can try. Errol moves for the canister in the living room. Lumen intercepts him. Let's not risk breaking a containment chamber on our first try. Good point. She looks around for something small, grabs a sugar cube, and hands it to him. Start with this. He holds the cube up in front of his face and stares intently at it. What do I do? She shrugs. I have no idea the mechanics nor the scope of your abilities. She also has doubts about their very existence, but it seems counterproductive to point that out just now. He nods thoughtfully. Let's see what's possible.